In this video, I'll show you how to make an exploded assembly. First, you have to have a full assembly. Once you have that and you've saved it, let's start a new file. It's going to be a presentation file. So scroll all the way down. It's a standard inch IPN for Inventor presentation. Create a new file. What we have to do is find your assembly. Open that up and go up here to where it says tweak the components. Now the idea here is we want to basically disassemble it in an organized manner. So think about how you might put it together and reverse that so you can show someone how the parts come apart, but again in an organized manner. So let's go to tweak components and let's pick one. Let's start with that bearing housing there, and when you click on it you'll see these arrows pop up which you can highlight. Don't click anything yet if you move your cursor around, and that's showing which direction. In this case it's the axis. We're actually going to pull it upwards. So think about how you would take this apart. You're not going to pull it to the side, you're going to pull it upwards. So click on that arrow and hold it down, and then you can pull your part up, and you'll see it'll leave a trace to kind of let you backtrack to how it came apart. You can put in a fixed distance, or you can just pull it apart a reasonable amount. Something like that looks pretty good. Let's click on the next part. Let's click on the screw. Same thing. How would you pull that screw out? You're going to pull it straight up. So click on that, hold it down, pull the screw up. Now don't go way too far away. Keep it in a reasonable distance, but also think ahead a little bit because I'm going to pull this bearing up too. Let's click on that screw. Same thing. Let's pull it up. And then let's click on the bearing and pull it upward. And that's a very easy to understand. Now I'm going to put a check mark on that. It's very easy to understand what's happening here when you look at that. And also the reason it's called a presentation file is you can come down here and click on this and it'll show you like a little movie of how the thing comes apart. Or it goes back together. Okay, so let's save that. Oops, let me pull it apart. I want to save it when it's exploded, not when it's put back together. Okay, save that. Save as, give it a different name now. Or you're just going to save over top of your other. So I'll just call it EXP. Alright, let's go open up a new drawing sheet. And we're not going to use a D size. We're going to see if we can put this on a B size. Should be fine. Okay, so go to base view. You get a couple of these messages. That's going to pop up. Now remember, we're not going to use orthographic views when you have a three-dimensional assembly model. Use an isometric view or two, depending on the number of parts. In this case, a small number of parts, it should be easy to have a single isometric view. And always try to make it as big as I can within reason. Now that's just too big, so let's go with a half scale. And let's see, I think I'm going to leave it shaded. Let's see what that looks like with it shaded. Oops, try again. Too much stuff being clicked at the same time. Just gives you a little bit better appearance. Okay, so let's add some balloons in a parts list to this. So go to annotate, balloon. Click your part, say OK, and then click right click continue. Click right click continue until you have all your parts. Now there's two screws. You only have to click on one of them. In fact, think about something. What if you had like 10 screws that were the same? You're not going to click all of them. And the interesting thing is the parts list is automatically going to identify the quantity. So click on parts list, click inside the box here, say OK. Remember the parts list always goes right there. I'm going to tell you again that when I saved these, I didn't save them with the part numbers. Make sure you save them with the part numbers. Double click in there and we'll fill out the title block. And again, it's kind of redundant because of the way that I saved them. That's why we always want to add part numbers. When you're saving the drawing, always save it with a part number, even if you have a description as well, but the part number is really important. I misspelled collar. There we go. Say OK. And then we're going to fill out the title block. And that's shaft support. And we'll call that exploded assembly. And let's see, you can put your name up in here. Say OK. It looks pretty small on the sheet. Let's take a look at that and see. Maybe we can make that bigger. Let's right click, edit view. Now say, well, I only have either a quarter, a half, or a full scale, but you can actually fudge this. Like you can put your cursor over here, backspace. Let's try a 1/3 scale. And that's okay for an assembly, is having some kind of odd scale. A lot of times you try to 2/3. That looks better. For your detailed drawings, you try to stick with full scale, half scale, quarter scale, something like that. And you can always, if you don't like where these are, you can always move them after the fact. Okay, that looks a little bit better. So there's a really nice exploded assembly.